What happened to him?
I don't know, but we're live, my friend, and welcome to a Monday Huddle here on the PressProsMagazine.com network.
They say that all.
There we go. That's familiar. I'm Bruce Hooley. Sonny Fulks alongside with Willie Nelson, no Waylon Jennings. Get a good whiff of that Willie Nelson aroma.
Same old thing again.
Same old thing again.
Same old thing again. Sonny has a very special guest he'd like to introduce to us tonight at the top of the Press Pros Magazine Huddle show. Before we get into talking a little football, a little Olympics, and a little other topics.
Look at this.
Here she is.
Here is Penny, a.k.a. Boomer, and she is a camera hog.
Yes.
One
happy
French bulldog.
French bulldog. Frenchie.
We have had her about 4 months, and she is just a lot of fun, as you can tell. She's not
a barrel of monkeys. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a barrel of monkeys.
She just wants to go to sleep, I think.
We have had Josie on here from Minneapolis, if you'll remember Josie, Pat Jewett's dog. And we have had Truman on here, and now we have Boomer on here, or Penny.
Yeah.
So there you go.
None of the Hooley dogs have made an appearance yet. They probably will at some point in time, but they will not be as well behaved as Boomer. That I can assure you.
All right.
So, congratulations. I love Boomer. She's a sweetheart. And we thank all of you for joining us here tonight. We're going to talk a little football and other assorted topics. Tonight would be a great night for you to submit your questions via Facebook or Twitter. And we appreciate you all joining us. And those of you who are joining us on the replay, obviously you cannot submit a question because you're watching us on the replay, not live. But we're happy to have you with us in one way, shape, or form. And we'll be tweeting out an homage to our sponsors during the show. And so we appreciate them very much, and all of you who make PressProsMagazine.com a regular part of your day. We're looking forward to the fall with the return of football, the return of volleyball, cross country, and all the other fall sports, soccer. And Mr. Fulks, what do you have for us off the top of the show tonight?
Well, we hope we're looking forward to fall sports.
We are looking forward to fall sports. Whether they will be unaffected by COVID, I believe they will be unaffected by COVID. I do not believe that our governor has a death wish for his reelection campaign. And so I believe he will let the schools go. And I don't think the state of Ohio or any state in this country has the patience for the kind of lockdowns that we had last year that were done. I understand it out of an abundance of caution, but I do not believe the constituents have the patience for that.
Well, but I'll guarantee. I said to you just a moment ago, dollars to dimes, there will be an outcry from that group of people out here who think that we're going to endanger the world by opening the schools, by playing sports, by full stadiums, 105,000 people at Ohio Stadium. We're going to talk about the Olympics here in a minute. And honestly, there's going to be people coming out of the woodwork saying this is risky, this is unfair, this is dangerous. Like the woman I told you I heard today says, I'm not free. We're not free. You're not free if we're not free. Meaning if we have to worry about the person we're sitting next to you. That is my fear about the politicians and what's coming the next 30 days. Will there be a flip? Because DeWine just signed something last week, said you don't have to be vaccinated to play sports or go back to school. And he has said, pinky swear, that we are, it's going to be up to the communities to make those kind of decisions. We'll wait and see. Off the top of the show, let me tell you this. My thanks go out to the people at the Minster Classic, the 20th annual Minster Classic this weekend, which is a celebration of amateur baseball and softball that they have there at their beautiful athletic plantation there west of town. And I couldn't be more beholding to people like Mike Wiss and Tim Nixon and Austin Kaler and so many people that work hard there in that community to put that on. Kids enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. What's particularly gratifying for me, and I know there's got to be some Minster people watching us tonight, is people support that.
Yeah.
They support that. They come out. They want those activities to happen. And they put their money in their butts where their mouth is. They come out with their folding chair and their growler, and they sit under a shade tree, grandma with her growler, and and they watch that and cheer and yell and scream. It's a lot of fun, and it's a wonderful culture of amateur sports. And I couldn't be, speaking for Press Pros, more appreciative of being invited. So thanks to all those people. I know they read. We had great numbers this weekend. Appreciate your support for us online, and always look forward to coming back and being a part of that. Because Bruce, think about all the things we've covered before. They were just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun, folks. What you do in Minster and what Craig Stammen and his staff do in Versailles is fun for us. We enjoy that. And thanks for inviting us, and please ask us back because we'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. It is always a pleasure, and that's one of the things that's been a real joy for me in stepping up my involvement with PressProsMagazine.com has been meeting the people, the great people.
You bet.
Throughout the fall season, the winter sports season, this summer season, and that's another reason why. I know when you and I talk about COVID and stuff like that, people can get a little bit tired of that, but for me, it's not a political matter as much as I fast forward ahead to the things I'll miss if our regular way of doing things in a non-pandemic time is suspended. And, I'll miss if we don't get to be around high school football. I'll miss high school basketball, all those kinds of things. And I don't think we'll be in that situation. But we do have some unknowns here. But the biggest unknown is coming up Friday, start of the Olympic Games. And daily, it seems, we have a headline about an athlete who's testing positive. We had a U.S. basketball team has been impacted so far. Bradley Beal's not on the team. Jeremy Grant is not on the team. I think Zach Levine is quarantined now. We had a USA gymnast today.
Tara Aker was fully vaccinated, tested positive, totally asymptomatic, now has to miss the Olympics. Now, what good does it do to get vaccinated if you test positive? You're vaccinated, you're safe, you're 99.9% safe, and yet I'm not free if you're not free. If I have to worry about if you're not free, if I'm not free. So if I have to worry about you, you're null and void.
By the way, in response to your Minster comments, Randy says it was an awesome tournament put on by hardworking people in a great community. And Deborah concurs. She says it was awesome and that Minster did a fantastic job. So thanks to you folks for.
Well, Deborah, and Randy, let me just say this. It is so impressive to go there and see the commitment of all of those people. I mean, old people, young people, parents. I mean, they just pull out all the stops to say this is important. Baseball, softball, these activities are important, which is why we're spend some time talking about wringing our hands about will we not have sports this year because of COVID. Look, last year when we didn't have sports, when we missed the 2019 tournament, that whole period there, people walked around because they were out of their routine. They walked around like a duck that had been struck on the head with something. They just didn't know what to do. And that's not original. Lincoln said that, in 1862. So
steal from the best.
Don't sticker for me. I steal from the best. But Deborah, that's what makes it so impressive is those people's commitment in Versailles and Minster and other communities around. And they're not phony about it. I mean, they come out, they come out in force, and it is their culture and part of their life. And I'm glad it is.
So you had some questions you wanted to ask me about the Olympics. I will make a controversial statement. Some people will not like hearing this. I said today on my radio show, this might be the most un-American thing I've ever said on my radio show. Well, I am rooting for anyone but the United States to win the gold medal in men's basketball.
Well, before we get
I do not find their team likable. I do not find their coach, Greg Popovich, likable. And it would be enjoyable for me to watch them get humbled. Now, you're talking to a kid who one of the most vivid memories of my youth was 1972 Munich gold medal basketball game when Doug Collins made 2 free throws with seconds to go in the game. And Alexander Belov was given 3 chances to score the game-winning layup for the Russians. And I think it is phenomenal that to this day that Olympic basketball team has not accepted their silver medals because they were cheated out of their silver medals. I have great memories of USA basketball in the Olympics back when the college players played. I have never been in favor of the NBA players playing, not the Dream Team or anybody else, but the Dream Team at least was likable. These guys aren't likable, and their coach hates America. So that's why I'm rooting against them.
Well, I'm not going to root against them. I don't root, period. But I will say this to you. My question is, are you even anticipating or excited or enthusiastic about the Olympics? Because now think back when we were kids. That was a big, big deal. You waited 4 years, and the Winter and Summer Olympics were both in the same calendar year. Now it's every 2 years because of TV, of course, revenue and money.
It's funny you bring this up because we were having this conversation.
It was a big deal back then. You waited 4 years, and you wanted to see sports because you were curious. What is a hammer throw? I've never seen anybody throw a javelin. I've never seen these things happen, and the curiosity was great. Now it is so politicized, and there's so much, all the conversation about is COVID. And will we infect the entire world if we stage the Olympics? Will people go out from the Olympics? All those athletes are going to be sick. They're going to be symptomatic. They're going to go out and they're going to make the whole world die. That there is no enthusiasm for the Olympics because of the politics of COVID.
Yeah, I would concur with you that the Olympics are some of the most treasured memories that I have as a sports fan as a kid. I remember, I'm just going to rattle off a couple for you. I remember Tommy Smith and John Carlos raising their fists on the medal stand in Mexico City. I remember George Foreman waving the American flag when he won his heavyweight boxing gold medal. I remember, pardon me?
Cassius Clay.
Yeah, I don't remember Cassius Clay. You're a little bit ahead of me there. He was an Olympics before my recognition, but I remember Dave Waddle in the ball cap running down the field in the 800, winning the gold medal, and a lot of things. Mark Spitz, his great Olympics, and then obviously lately Michael Phelps and all those things. I remember Dick Fosbury being the first guy to high jump backwards, the Fosbury flop. So I remember a lot of that stuff, and I guess in this Olympics. I don't know many of the athletes going in. There aren't, to me, as many holdovers. The ones that I know, obviously, Katie Ledecky in swimming. She's phenomenal. I'll be watching her. And I'm a big fan of Allison Felix, the female sprinter, one of the most decorated female sprinters in U.S. history. I'm hoping she gets another gold medal in a relay event. But I would say, the answer to your question, the short answer to your question is I am looking forward to the Olympics, but I have a unique reason why.
Okay.
My girls are right at that age where sometimes dad's fun to be around and sometimes, dad's lame to be around. And so if there's something like the Olympics that they're interested in, that I get to sit in a room with them and watch TV and enjoy the same thing, that gives me quality time with my 3 daughters. And that's going to be very precious to me. So the Olympics play into something that I treasure, which is time with my daughters. And so that's why I am looking forward to them.
Well, for that reason, I need to borrow a daughter because I'm an empty nester. So if you
are an empty nester, yeah.
If you want to send one to Miami County to watch soccer with me.
Well, you got Boomer there. Boomer will sit right on your lap and watch whatever you want.
Boomer would be snoring before they had the first shot. So I just think it's unfortunate that these events, world events like this anymore, are overshadowed by the politics of the day. Mm-hmm. And if it wasn't COVID, it would be something else.
Wait till Winter Games in Beijing.
Well, of course. Yes, indeed. Wait till the Winter Games. But, there is no relief anymore. And I've written about this. We've talked about this on this show. There's no relief for people anymore to get away from the cares of the world. You just can't watch an NFL football game on Sunday, because a lot of people do that. They want 3 hours of football and they don't want to hear about someone's problems in Baltimore or Boston or Chicago or something like that. They just want to watch football. All of that's been taken away. In
Sonny,
baseball,
you just hit on why people love what we cover at Press Pros so much, because high school is the last bastion of that innocence of sports, because as college sports now and the big sports, football and basketball, is transitioning into essentially free agency with immediate eligibility transfer waivers, with name, image, and likeness, and kids getting paid. It's going to remove the veneer of amateurism. It's going to take off the sheen of they're doing it for the colleges. They're not doing it for the colleges. They're doing it for money. And so high schools gives people their last taste of the purity of sport. I genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe it is the last thing for communities to come in and unite around and put aside their differences, and everybody is joined as one, supporting a high school team. I don't care whether it's Bradford softball or whether it's Fort Loramie girls basketball or Marion local Coldwater, New Bremen football, Botkins boys basketball. The community still can unite around a high school sports team.
I just think a lot of NFL players, NBA players, MLB players are delusional when they think that people are watching them because of their platform.
Yeah. Or brand.
What they're missing is that loud clicking noise of people turning off the TV.
Yeah.
They're so delusional about what their platform is, they can't hear people turning off the set.
Yeah.
And honestly, we have no relief from the cares of the world. And it's shootings, it's murders, it's drive-bys, it's all this kind of stuff. It's COVID. You can't get away from this. And we seem like the networks, the media, everyone seem like this is a great idea. If we push this envelope so far to where you can't get away from it, then you have to accept all the bad things that seem to be going on around us.
If I was a coach of an NFL team or of a Major League Baseball team or of an NFL team, I'd put these 4 letters on every – you can't really see them, can you? Can you see what that says? YLDS?
Yep.
Your life doesn't stink. That's what I would put on the wall of my locker room if I were a coach or if I were a GM or if I were an owner. YLDS.
Okay,
I might put that on everybody's sleeve. YLDS. Every time they want to complain. Your life doesn't stink.
I have a text here that we're moving on. I got a text here from a friend of mine from Southern Ohio, Brad Geralds. Appreciate hearing from you. And he said to me, and this is in light of what has gone on in the last week in Washington the other night, the shooting outside the ballpark.
Yeah.
He said, when was the last time, he's talking to me, when was the last time, and I'll ask you the same question. When was the last time you actually went to a Major League Baseball game, or he said paid to go to a Major League Baseball game, given the fact that you and I are privileged to media credentials, so we can get in and go to something like that. I'll answer this.
I went to a couple Indians games while I was in Cleveland working up there. So in 2016, I quit that job to come back down to Columbus. I covered their play-in game against Tampa one year when Danny Salazar started. But paid to go, the last game I believe I paid to go see was when I was on vacation in Arizona. I went with my wife and my in-laws to a Diamondbacks game. And that's been 7-10 years ago, maybe.
I'm going to say that the last game I paid to go was a Reds game. It was, I'm pretty sure, the first year that Great American Ballpark was open, or the second. I took my son Matt. We went. That's the last time I paid to go see one. The last MLB game that I saw in person was 10 years ago on a free ticket, and that ticket was $60. And I remember laughing and telling somebody, I would never pay $60 to sit in these seats.
I had no idea Major League Baseball tickets were that.
These are $60, $58 to sit behind first base in the first base stands along Great American Ballpark, and that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
But the biggest issue that I have, seriously, with what we have seen is going on in the cities now, would you dare be caught near that ballpark in Washington? Or is it safe to go to Dodger Stadium, where the Giants fan almost was beaten within an inch of his life 3 years ago by the two Dodger fans in the parking lot going to his car? These things happen, and the culture of the major leagues have to be concerned about how they're going to convince people that it's even safe to come to the ballpark anymore.
Well, I think our cities are increasingly violent, which seems to me, and again, in a situation like this, perception is reality. Because when you're going to a ball game, you're going with your buddies, you're going with your family, you're not going by yourself. You're going with some friends. Okay, so your perception is you're out for a fun night, but if any kind of incident intrudes on that, if you're taking your wife and your kids, you don't want to take them into a dangerous environment. With your buddies, you got other options. You can go to a bar and watch the game and have a more of a control over your environment and the safety of your environment. So what I would fear going to a major league city and to a major league baseball game is not that I would get in some kind of a scrap. I'm smart enough not to wear a Giants hat to a Dodger game. I'm smart enough not to do that. You don't want to antagonize people. It's a shame that you can't wear your team colors, but you got to be smarter than that. But I fear the random incident that I'm not a part of, that I become a part of just because I'm wrong place, wrong time. And so, are the odds of that very good? Probably not. But I know what the odds are if I don't go. 0.
Exactly.
So why would I put myself in that situation? Why would I put my kids in that situation? I mean, I'll personalize this for you. My family and I have enjoyed over the years going to a Columbus Blue Jackets game or two a season. We really enjoy it. My girls really enjoy it. As a parent, you like to take your kids and to an experience they enjoy. I won't take them to a Columbus Blue Jackets game anymore. I don't feel like I can guarantee their safety. That's not a reflection on the Blue Jackets organization at all. It's a reflection on what the city of Columbus has become. And likewise, I would love to go to the Columbus Crew's new stadium, lower.com field, and see the stadium and watch a game. I'm sure it's a tremendous experience, but I won't go for the same reason. I wouldn't go if the owner offered me tickets, because I don't feel like I can guarantee the safety of my family. And so I got to believe that I'm not that much of an outlier. I would think there are a lot of dads, a lot of husbands who feel like I do, and that has to be showing up in Major League Baseball and other major sports revenue in some way.
Well, you hit on something when Doug Ute was on a few weeks ago about the cost of taking your 3 girls and Sherry to a high school soccer game.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, maybe a playoff game where the tickets are $12. So to go to a high school soccer game, it's going to cost you $60 plus $3 or $4 to park, and if you buy some concessions.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to a major league game, and I found a ticket, my mom and dad used to take me once a year to Cincinnati, and I remember that good seats in box seats were $3 and a quarter, and how they would sit around the kitchen table and budget that trip. That was the summer vacation to drive from Ironton to Cincinnati, and you spend 2 nights in the Sheraton Gibson. 3 of us in a room cost $15 at the Sheraton Gibson downtown. Tickets are $3 and a quarter. Concessions, you had to pay a pittance to park, hey, the weekend to go to Cincinnati cost $100 for 2 days, 2 nights, baseball game, and all that. Well, imagine what it would cost you now.
Wow.
Because the seats that I talked about, if you got a family of 5, you're talking about $300 just for seats. Concessions are out of this world. Parking, I don't know how you afford that anymore. And yet they get people in baseball. Now, I know a lot of those seats are corporate tickets that are given to people. They're all those people you see don't afford those, but it is so oppressively expensive to go see a major sporting event anymore. Now,
yeah, I can't imagine what season tickets are. I guess that's why a lot of people split season tickets.
right. But it's a major pain in the butt to even drive into downtown Cincinnati and fight that traffic and get into that parking garage and to get out and get home because 75 is always under construction.
Yeah.
I shook my head when they decided to build that downtown because I thought they would build it someplace farther up that would be easier access in and out. It's just not easy to go to those things anymore.
No, it is not. Well, we have high school football season coming. Let's act like it's coming without any kind of impediment, any kind of threat from COVID. We are blessed in the PressProsMagazine.com era to cover some outstanding programs with some outstanding coaches. You profiled one who's new to the area this year, and Seth Whiting at Minster High School. We expect Marion Local to be back gunning for what, 12th state championship this
All-time
year.
record.
Coldwater is the defending state champion in Division 5? 6. New Bremen is the defending state champion in Division 7. Obviously, New Bremen and Marion Local have had quite a history in the playoffs here recently. We think Versailles is going to be strong this year. You say St. Henry is going to be strong this year. I hesitate to stop talking because I'm afraid I'm going to forget somebody. Tri-Village is going to be good this year. Arcanum is going to be able to throw the football around this year. So Troy Christian, Steve Nolan, is going to be back for his second year.
Piqua, don't forget Piqua. Piqua's loaded. They're going to be
Piqua is loaded. Yes, indeed, they are. Piqua is loaded. So we're looking forward to football.
I'm really looking forward to see what Bill does. He's got so much talent coming back. He did lose Karan Coleman out of the backfield, their fine running back, and Gerald Lewis, their linebacker / defensive end, two really fine players. But they've got great talent coming back. Tip City's got great talent on the way up. They're young. They've got a lot of kids. They're big. They're going to be well coached. The MAC teams that you just mentioned, I'm really anxious to see Versailles play this year, given a third year with Ryan Jones. So many people back. Their quarterback, their featured running backs back. They've got skilled players. They've got size. I think that was very valuable for them to get an experience in the playoffs last year of what it meant to play in big games again. It's been a long time since Versailles football has played in big games under Al Hetrick. And so the expectation and anticipation there is off the charts. I think Marion will be better this year than maybe some people believe them to be, because they're going to have some skill kids. They're going to tackle. They're going to block and tackle. They're gunning for their 12th, the all-time record. They're Division 7, and the all-time record for most titles that they share now with St. Ignatius and Cleveland. But you mentioned that Coldwater always just reloads and comes out and finds a way to win. I think St. Henry's going to be interesting this year because, again, they've got some big kids. They've got kids that are athletes. They've got a good running game. They question with their quarterback and health, and will he be able to answer the bell? But yes, up and down 75, and given the fact that the new conference, Three Rivers Conference, you mentioned Troy Christian, they'll be playing in that conference with some new and better competition. No more Middletown Christians, Trinity Christians. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they just didn't play good enough football to make Troy Christian relevant. Now they have a chance to really be relevant in the new league with Northridge and Covington and Miami East and Lehman and Milton Union, Riverside, and Bethel. So that's going to be.
That was a tough first year. The circumstances of that year were a tough first year for Steve Nolan to get back in there and do what he wanted to do. He had everything building when he was named the coach for the second time, after taking a few years off. And then COVID hit and he couldn't get his kids in a weight room. And it was particularly hard on first-year coaches last year. Matt Burbacher, Tip, Steve Nolan, and so. But this year it'll be really interesting. I'm interested to watch Versailles. They got a couple really good running backs. Is Carson Bay back?
Carson Bay back at quarterback. Yeah.
Okay. See, so they're very talented in the backfield, and Coldwater's got to replace Miles Blasingame, but Chip never seems worried about replacing guys. That's the funny thing about Chip. He's always got a pretty good handle on who's coming up next.
Chip's going to replace Miles Blasingame with Marcel
Blasingame. And you mentioned Marion Local, or you mentioned St. Henry and their size of their kids. And, that sounds to me a lot like how we looked at New Bremen last year. When we saw New Bremen play Coldwater in the middle of the season, we didn't really feel like New Bremen got the most out of what their athletes appeared to be capable of doing to us that night. Now, I don't think either you or I realized at that point in time how good Coldwater was. We didn't know we were watching two state champions that night. But we tended to think, well, New Bremen, they started early, started fast, and they didn't really give Coldwater much of a game. But Coldwater, that kind of jump-started New Bremen, that kind of jump-started New Bremen to become what they became, which was the class of their Division 7. And St. Henry could be a team like that this year. They might have a defining game where they just kind of figure it out, and from that point on, surprise us is what they accomplished.
What you had last year, and those teams you just talked about, was the emergence of leadership. In New Bremen, it was Mitchell Hayes.
Yeah.
After that Coldwater game, he suddenly took on a whole different thing of responsibility. You could see it just in the way he walked and talked in the huddle, their quarterback. I think the same thing happened at Coldwater, with Miles Blasingame. Mm-hmm. He had not played quarterback previous to last year, probably had in JV ball or something like that. He's a good athlete. He obviously had some experience, but he became a leader. And you see leaders emerge in sports, and that's why New Bremen took off on the run that they did last year. That's why Coldwater was as good as they was last year. There's somebody, I think, that's going to emerge at St. Henry. They talk about we're going to be able to run the ball, and it's going to be a headache for people to stop us. So I'm anxious to see if they run the ball again like they did in 2006 with that big put-off guy, that Andy Putoff, that ran all over Warren JFK in the title game. I mean, he punished them in that 2006 game. And that's their kind of football there. They've had guys that can throw the ball, obviously, with Todd Beckman. But, boy, they like to, just buckle down and say, here, try to stop this. So, it's going to be an interesting year. Piqua, I mentioned them. They've got their quarterback back. They've got a couple of skilled people back that played a lot last year. Bill's got size between the tackles. They've got big game experience. And the way they lost to Anderson last year in the last 30 seconds of that game is motivation enough to come back and work as hard and do whatever's necessary this year to get at least one step farther.
And then, of course, we're looking forward to expanding into Central Ohio this year, so we will identify who the best teams are in Central Ohio as we go there. Pickerington is always strong. They're always good players a lot of places. Steve Blackledge did an outstanding profile just last week on Gabe Powers, the 4- or 5-star linebacker from Marysville, who is going to Ohio State. And very shortly, Steve will be publishing on the site a profile of somebody that people in the MAC know very well, and people in Central Ohio know very well, and people in Western Pennsylvania know very well. And that would be, of course, Jeff Hardings, who is the head football coach at Worthington Christian High School and who was a fantastic player at St. Henry, who helped the Redskins win state titles with Bobby Hoying and Kevin Niekamp. Now, Randy asked a question on Facebook. Is Randy like one of those guys who's asking a question here, like attorneys? They tell attorneys never ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Randy says, is the MAC the best league in the state? Now, Randy, do you know any other league that routinely wins multiple state championships?
Do you know any other league in the state that has 141 titles in 40 years? Yeah. I mean, they were constituted in 1972, 82, 92. 2002, a little bit more than that, 45, 46 years. That's an amazing thing. 141 state titles, 43 football titles. And you think about this, Randy, how many schools have at least 6 for Sales, Delphi St. John, Coldwater, Marion? Marion's got 11. That's the thing that's stunning about that conference. And then, of course, St. Henry's got 4. So are they the best league in the state? I'll answer it this way. I think it's the most impressive league in the state because of the one common factor they have throughout all 10 school communities. Got a lot of 2-parent homes, hard work ethic, character, morals. Every kid has to do something in school. You just can't go home and play PlayStation. If you're not playing football, you're going to be in the band, you're going to be a cheerleader, you're going to be playing volleyball, but you're going to be involved with a school activity, a community activity. And I think that's what makes the MAC the MAC. There's just no excuse for not working hard and making yourself better than you were.
Yeah, I think, it depends what you mean by best. I mean, the OCC has 32 teams. The GCL, if you put the GCL up against the individual teams in the MAC, well, the GCL would win. But I'm talking about quality of football top to bottom, access to winning a state title, depth of the league in terms of how many teams have won state titles, tradition. I don't think the MAC can be touched by anybody. I don't think they take a backseat to anybody. So the answer, Randy, to your question is yes.
Well, and people ask me this question all the time: is Marion Local the best football program in the state of Ohio? I asked Tim Goodwin this one time, and Tim said we certainly have to be in the conversation. Would you? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to be in the conversation. So
I would think so. Think so. Randy says good answer, so he liked our answer, so we appreciate that. Well, Mr. Fulks, as we near the appointed hour in which we usually adjourn, and thank everybody for their time and attention, did you have anything from the Reader Speaks column that you wanted to raise?
No, the Reader Speaks column is quiet this week, but we'll be back with more in a couple of weeks. I do want to note that somebody wrote to me this morning and said, how many baseball games did you do this year? Mm-hmm. I'm always a shill for baseball. And we talked about Minster and their classic up there over the weekend and how important that is to those people. I went back and looked today, and counting Ohio State this year, we did 101 we covered 101 baseball and softball games on PressProsMagazine.com. I think we have the record. We enjoyed every.
So. Good deal.
Yesterday was our last one in the Best of Ohio series. We enjoyed doing that. Jordan Kopp is the organizer of that, the Best of Ohio Sports series of summer baseball for 15, 16, 17, 18U. We enjoyed seeing that. Saw a lot of great players, had a lot of fun, and appreciated being invited to be a part of it.
Well, with that, we'll thank everybody for watching, and we'll also remind you that PressProsMagazine.com is your home for the finest coverage of amateur and college sports. Central Ohio fans, we are happy that you're joining us and are bookmarking our site and getting ready for the PressProsMagazine.com treatment in the fall of the OCC and the Columbus Catholic League and some other schools around the city. And we hope you'll continue to watch us here on Monday nights. Tell your friends about our site. And we want you to also thank our sponsors. When you see advertising on the site, please let our sponsors know that you appreciate their support of our coverage areas.
And if you learned nothing else tonight, you learned that Bruce Hooley is not a fan of Greg Popovich. I am not a fan of Greg Popovich. No, I am not. That man gets such creds, for being one of the best coaches in the history of basketball.
Yeah. How many titles has he won since Tim Duncan retired? As many as me. As many as me. That's how many. By the way, is Boomer fast asleep?
Boomer has checked out.
Boomer is checked out. All right.
Elvis has left the building. Thank you. And good night.
Well, Truman, good night. And good night, Sonny. Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching us. And thanks for reading the site. As always, we bid you a fond farewell from PressProsMagazine.com.
See you next week.